What's up, everybody? Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome, everybody. Taking my phone out of my pocket. How's everybody doing? What's up, legendary frog? Welcome, everybody, to the Collegiate Esports Talk Show. Use that as my intro for the video I eventually edit at some point, although I'm like a week or two behind. Esports office hours and no students in the queue. Let's go. Nice. Huge. Who's making playoffs? Who's making playoffs in one of their leagues? Our League of Legends team is qualified for playoffs. We'll be traveling to South Carolina in about a week and a half. We did an OWCC. There you go. Kennesaw State making waves. Huge. That's awesome. Congrats. That's massive. Top 4 of the NJCAA CELO conference this weekend. That's hype. Good luck. What does that conference look like? I don't remember. I'm NJCAA. Where can I find that? We face Bay State first, though. Oh, that is a rough first OWCC playoff. That is rough. Yeah, no, I know it's the junior colleges. It's the NJCAA. I just don't know what are the top teams in that. Partner conferences. NJCAA. There's only 6 listed on here on Battlefy. Bismarck State, Heartland, Nova, Hutch CC, St. Clair, Trinity Valley. Yeah. I think St. Clair is the favorite in that one. Turnout wasn't amazing. That's surprising. I'm assuming that in the regional conferences there are junior colleges in there. I wonder if they knew. I know Nova is usually pretty strong in some of the titles. I think Rocket League is their big title. Whoever the Lumberjacks are, is it Lebanon Valley Community College? No. The Lumberjacks. They usually have a really good league team, too. You play them this weekend? Oh, snap. Good luck. Good luck, good luck. Well, today, guys, I have a short show for you. I am hopping off soon, or in like 20 minutes. I'm going to like a faculty staff, or it's like I don't know the name. It's a long word that starts with a C. It's some faculty members are doing some research, and they're presenting that research to faculty and staff. And I thought I'd go. One of the researchers is a professor who is in the sports management department who has invited me to speak in his course before. And he's a big fan of esports. So I'm going to give him go cheer him on and heckle him a little bit. So short show this week, but I thought we could approach a really important topic, in my opinion. And that topic is going to be a revenue analysis for your esports program. couple caveats before I hop into this sample that I have. A couple of caveats. This is going to be much more important for the programs that are much more recruitment centric, or the value you bring to the university is strictly or mostly in a recruitment standpoint. It also doesn't necessarily give you the free golden ticket to a massive bump in your pay or the budget, but this is an important tool for you to have in your toolkit as you approach those conversations. All right. And basically the gist of this conversation is going to be, how much money are you bringing into the university, and how much of that is money that the university is getting that factors out expenses, if that makes sense. Cool. This is a sample and a analysis that I've shared with other coaches in the past that I think have found it useful. It's something I threw together at my last position over at Aquinas, and then I've kind of rounded some numbers, changed some numbers around to use it as a sample for other coaches as they kind of go through this. So without further ado, I'm going to show you this. We're going to hop over to this screen. If it works. There we go. We're going to hop over to this screen, and this is going to be the sample revenue analysis that I've created. I know this is going to be kind of more of a boring, less spicy presentation, but I think it's really important. I think it's important for those new directors out there, or directors who've been in a position for a while who don't quite know how to ask for more. And I think this can be a really important depiction. I also, when I did this, I realized very quickly why so many schools were adopting esports and why it's adopting so quickly, especially at smaller institutions that are struggling from an enrollment standpoint. Because my thought was they're trying to make some extra money, might take a couple years, but eventually they get there. But in my analysis, it was pretty quickly realized that the revenue generated was a very quick turnaround, if that makes sense. So here we have my sample revenue analysis document. If you guys ever want to use something like this, or use this one in particular, just feel free to message me. I'm more than willing to share something like this. It's got some really simple calculations in here. It's just sums and subtraction and all that fun stuff. But basically, I'm just going to run you through kind of what this looks like. All right, so I have a 4-year projection on the revenue of an esports program that started in fiscal year 2020, which usually is like a 2019-2020 school year. And some of this is going to be a little fast or a little boring for my non-Excel people or my non-numbers people, but bear with me. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat or reach out to me. But this first year, I've kind of taken some kind of averages that I've seen across the space when I start looking at some of this stuff. When I start looking at amount of students in the program, this is kind of what I've seen as kind of an average growth across esports in the smaller schools, and those who I think are going to find more value in this. In terms of students living on campus, this could be different for you. I mean, for where I'm at now, this probably is going to be 11 out of 12 live on campus, because we require students to live on campus unless if they're in town. But for other schools, it could be very much a commuter campus, so you might not even have these students living on campus, and that's going to affect your revenue. Basically, I have two sections here. I have income or revenue. This is the money coming in to the school, and then the expenses going out. And I think identifying these as accurately as possible is going to give you the clearest picture of what you're looking at and the story that you can tell. Ew, Excel. I'll just type it all into Word. Okay, great, Bird. That works too. Whatever floats your boat. So my first couple lines here, I have tuition revenue, room and board, and fees. These are all the income items that a school brings in usually. There are probably some other ones, but they don't really relate to the situation I was at the last school. You might have different lines at your institution. And basically what this is how much tuition we're bringing in. This is the blank, this is the ticket price tuition. In this example, the school has a $35,000 a year tuition. And then I times it by how many students we have in our program. And by screwing that up. Oh my gosh. Oh my word. So this first year, if we bring 12 new students, and I think the most important aspect of this, I think it's right here, this first one. Calculations only include new students to the college recruited by the esports program. Does not include walk-ons that join the esports program and the retention benefit associated with those students. This is an important one too. Oftentimes smaller schools, when you're talking to your athletic director or the dean of students or whoever you report to, they don't really care about walk-on students. They only care about how many students are you bringing into the school. So that's what I included in here. It's only the students that I brought in. The next line is room and board. I think room and board is a really important line in here, although I've been surprised in the past at how little a school incentivizes coaches to recruit for students who live on campus as opposed to off. So this might not be an important line for you. This might not be a line that you want to include, but for me, I thought it was really valuable. And then fees. Every school has fees. I like to put the fees in there because they're a piece of that income. And then I added up total revenue. It's all of them put together. Year one, I'm looking at an additional revenue to the college of $500,000. But now we go into our expenses. So expenses are, I have split up here. Scholarships is going to be the biggest part of this. But for me in my previous institution, there was a distinction between academic scholarships and esports scholarships. And for me, it was really important to make that distinction and to showcase it on here just so everyone is aware that I'm not the one throwing so much money out in the form of scholarships. That is a really big caveat to this, Professor. And that's going to be kind of what is going to happen, like the big asterisk. And I think it's under here, actually. So I'll address that question now. So Professor Grumlin says, wouldn't cost of instruction take out a large chunk of the tuition revenue? Yes. At the institution I was at prior, they did not have a dollar amount of what it costs to educate a student. From what I've kind of gathered, some schools do have that cost, and it's pretty publicly available within departments or privately available within departments or within the school. And other schools don't, because this calculation of the cost to educate is a difficult one to calculate due to a variety of factors. But at the end of the day, some departments would have to be would have to realize and be told that they aren't part of that cost to educate. And that is, that could be a questionable thing for some of those departments because it says they're expendable. It's all over the place. I think there are some there are some ideas. I think there are some ideas. I think it might be in the public institutions. It might be more public. Oh, the costs are all over the place. Yes. But the cost to educate a student can vary depending on the institution, what they decide is expendable or not tied to educating that student. I think sometimes it's a question of like, do support services count? Do like tutoring? Does recreation department count as the cost to educate a student? Because really, at the end of the day, you can't really take the total cost of the budget of the school and divide it by how many students you have, because there's a lot of expenses in there that might not be considered that. So, that's a good point. So yes, when I look at my net revenue, that's not including the cost to educate. If you're at a school that knows this cost or labels a cost of this, you can take that out and you'll know exactly the net revenue of your program, and you'll have an even stronger argument on how to ask for more resources. But in this example, I don't have a cost to educate a student, unfortunately. So my numbers probably look a little bit higher, but it's a part of the story that you kind of craft. But under these expenses, as I was saying before, I have two separate lines. I have a merit scholarship line, which is the academic scholarships. At the institution I was at, the average was about $15,000 a year. And then the athletic one, this is your esports scholarship. For me, and across the country, the average is about $5,000 a year. So I take those, I times it by how many students I have in the program. Back up on the room and boards, this is times by how many students are on campus, not by how many students are in the program, because the room and board is only for students on campus. So there's that calculation. I then take out the operating budget of the program. So my coaches will probably know what this is. Google Sheets cringe. Thank you. I love Google Sheets. I'm sorry. It's just too easy to access all over the place. What's up, Madru? But yeah, I take out the program operating expenses. My coaches and directors, you know how much money you get to spend throughout the year. Sometimes this is looped together with scholarships. Some of my coaches and directors kind of have one lump of sum of cash that they get to play with. Others don't. I take that out, and then I take out the head coach salary. This was more than I made at my last institution, but it seemed to be more of the national average as we were moving forward. And then I take out the lab expenses. So building the lab is a capital expense. Doesn't happen every year. I do on the fourth year have another $100,000 to replace the PCs. That is something that you need to account for. Something that's important when you're communicating with the rest of campus. So what does this come out to? I think this is a pretty realistic budget when we talk about smaller programs right now. I think this is a pretty good national average estimate of what we're seeing. And I was so surprised to learn that year one, I was like, there's a profit here. Not necessarily profit. Maybe that's not the right term, but a net positive on the revenue. Again, big caveat, as Professor Grumblin pointed out, this does not include the cost to educate your students. So if your school does have a cost to educate in their reporting or how you guys calculate certain revenues, please put that in there, and then that'll change your cost. I'm assuming you'd lose money technically year one. But then the year two is a massive jump. So year two, we double our students, go to 24. We added a couple students on campus, and that's reflected in the revenues and the expenses. But remember, in year two, we're not building another lab. We have that first lab still there. We did ask for a little bit of a budget increase. I didn't ask for a salary increase, but maybe I should have. And with these calculations, I can just input them in, change them, and it changes everything. So year two is where your data rabbit hole. Yes, please. Hopefully this sparks some thinking and some conversation at the very least. I think this is really, really important when we're talking about, like, right now, it's kind of budget season for a lot of smaller schools, even kind of towards the tail end of it. Or maybe in the middle, depending on what your institution's doing. But this is a really important tool for you to have in those conversations, because I think oftentimes our bosses can overlook the benefits we're bringing to an institution and the benefits we could bring if we had more resources. I think it'd be really interesting to, and I've done this in the past, is have two plans or two options where this is what we have currently. This is the trajectory we're on. But option two, we add another full-time position. We add an operating budget. And what that does is that's going to increase the amount of students we bring in from a recruitment standpoint. Or it gives us an incentive to increase that amount of students. And I think that can tell a story as well. It's like, all right, boss, here's your two options. Like, we can just keep going the way we're going, and this is what we'll look like. We'll probably cap out right around here at 30 to 35 students. I can't support as one person more than 30 students. But if we get a second, we can pop that up. Cool. This revenue analysis document, like I said, I put together when I was doing some planning at my last job in terms of asking for more budget and looking at where we were heading. It was unfortunate that COVID hit right as this was becoming a part of the conversation. That kind of threw everything out the window. But it was a really important piece of that conversation. Beyond this, you might have more expenses, you might have more revenue in here. I know, like, for some schools there could be a sponsorships line. I don't know if you want to put that in the school revenue line, or if that would end up like being a subtraction to your budget. I'm not sure. But sponsorships could be a line. Donations is another line. But all of those tell an important story. And I was baffled that year 3, I was bringing in a net revenue to the college of over $500,000 a year. Again, doesn't have the cost to educate a student, but if the school's not going to provide that number to me, this is the story I have to tell. Yeah, that is the sample revenue analysis. Any questions? Any questions, class? Like I said, if you want to grab this document or this sheet to play with, if you want to ask me any questions that you might have, if you have a really good calculation on how to educate a student that you've worked with at a different institution or at the institution you're working for, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to message me or leave a comment down below when this is uploaded to YouTube. Yeah, that's kind of it. I'm gonna swap back over. Maybe. What am I doing? Oh, there we go. Wow, that mouse is screwing with me. 100 SHE equals 1 faculty equals $80,000 per year, plus 40,000 benefits, 12 full-time students, 24 SCH student credit hours. 100 student credit hours equals 1 faculty equals $80K per year plus benefits, 12 full-time students, 24 per year per student. Okay. I'm kind of following. 24 student credit hours per student. That sounds high. Benefits. Four classes per semester. Okay. Oh, 24 per year. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm thinking 24 per semester. So there's a calculation of, you're calculating so is that calculation you take a average of the faculty salaries? Because I know at the institution I was at, they were not paying anyone $80,000. Random guess. Okay. I think you can publicly find the cost of faculty. Well, from a tax document perspective, you can find the cost of faculty and staff. I'm not sure if you can find faculty. Yeah, supposedly the institution I was at had explored the idea of finding out the cost to educate a student and was met with a lot of flack and a lot of political drama. It was shut down because certain faculty and staff were appalled that they weren't included in the calculation to educate, and I don't know. I think for a public institution, it's probably much easier. I would be very surprised if there wasn't a formula, like a public formula somewhere. I'm sure there's plenty of research around it. It's all posted. Okay. That's fascinating. Yeah. But yeah, again, I think this is a really powerful tool, and especially if you know the cost to educate, you'll be in, I mean, golden territory. I think the real driver is the amount of students that you bring to the institution that wouldn't have been there without esports. And to be able to speak to that and know exactly which students that is, I think is really important in this story. Cool. All right, like I said, quick show today. I've got to run to this faculty collegium. Dude, I'm butchering it. I don't know how to say it. All right. I'm just symposium. Let's just use symposium. I don't think it's the same, but I'm not a professor at this moment in time, so I can get away with that. Professor says might even try and add in retention rates for esports. Yes, if your retention rates are better among esports competitors versus the common student population, that's massive. Retention is a huge word in the collegiate scene. I would be. There are a lot of programs out there whose the retention among esports athletes is not as high as the common student population, or is about the same. And if it's lower, you probably don't want to share that. But you might want to have plans on how to help that. It's a great point. But like I said, that's it for today. I got to run, but I appreciate everyone for stopping by. This will be uploaded on my YouTube channel later this week. If you have any questions or want to mess around with this spreadsheet, let me know. Until next time, everyone, I will talk to you all later. Good luck in playoffs for those teams that are in playoffs. Good luck to everyone else. And we will talk again next week. Peace.